Okay, this is my talk, forming ideas for games you don't have. Hopefully the recording is working properly and you can hear me fine. Um, so this is not a gospel in terms of like, oh, you have to do these methods to figure out an idea or whatever game you want to make. It's just something that's a useful exercise in terms of if you're stuck or hit like a writing block or whatever kind of block that there's something there that you could use that might be useful for to you, be it be it like a whole game idea or certain mechanics or just restructuring things for any game or whatever project. Okay, click. So who am I? Independent developer, blah blah blah, rapid prototyper, some experience in casual, hyper casual, whatever it is. I've touched a bit of development on that kind of stuff. And I also suck at art, so but I had to figure out ways in order to overcome that, and somehow trick people into thinking, oh, it's very intended art style. Yeah, okay. So little example of some stuff that you guys might have seen over the years. Next. Oh my God, why is it messing up? Okay, so let's set the scene. You're sitting there in your room. You have limited time to make a game. You don't know what you're gonna make, and you're just drinking lots of coffee, sipping them again and again, stuck, looking at the looming challenge that's ahead of you. And oh my God, what the hell? Okay, it's been 30 seconds. You started getting worried. You started to give up, and let's go. In frustration, you scream. You blow out your eardrums. I suddenly come in to help you, and you say, "No, leave me alone. I'm trying to concentrate." All right. You start calming down, and yeah, and my ears start bleeding from your shots, and I need to go to the hospital. And then you suddenly start asking me, "What the hell? How can you help me, please?" Please, and suddenly angelic light hits me, and I start getting healed, whatever. Suddenly my voice sounds like Mariah Carey while she's singing, and I start the talk. Okay, while with the angels humming in the background. Oh, oh, yeah, and I start floating for some reason. Okay, now let's actually start the actual useful stuff. Now the scene is set. So let's get to the point. So when it comes to trying to come up with ideas, I have like four main pillars that are usually a game idea might come from. One being genre fusion, stuff that's and then there's learning driven. So if there's something new you want to figure out that you want to learn, sometimes a game could come out from that. Maybe a theme or fantasy. Basically, it could be something like, oh, I want to slide on a skateboard down a massive mountain on my back. And that's a particular theme or fantasy that you could take that you probably wouldn't try to do in real life. Maybe even or I don't know, maybe skateboarding on a roller coaster, grinding rails on it. Yeah, that's a certain fantasy that you could try to create. And then there's another thing, and then the last but not least is minimal input. So a lot of game ideas could come from trying to, unique design games could come from that restriction and yeah, and typically might be useful for, especially if you're trying to keep your scope down. That one is the most useful, in my opinion. Okay, next. So first is genre fusion. There's a mini sometimes the first start to it that you could think of when it comes to trying something with genre fusion is trying to combine like different games that you know of, and then see where that takes you. Like for example, how would you combine a game that's uh, how would you combine Metal Gear Solid and Cookie Clicker? Or maybe I don't know, Metal Gear Solid and Cooking Mama maybe. Maybe it's a game it could turn into a game where you're cooking food and you have to feed your baby that's for some reason superhuman, and you have to stealth to feed him. Maybe. Maybe. Um Or just instead of like combine, you could instead of just combining games, you could even try combining genres as well. So what would you get if you combined, I don't know, a dating simulator with a racing game, maybe a trivia game with a game of mafia or something, like I don't know, Among Us meets I don't know trivia, etc. Oh shit! What the flip? Okay, now it's not blinking anymore. So from examples from my own stuff, I tried to combine baseball and Spelunky to not so great results, but still it was a learning experience. I tried to combine an infinite runner and a brawler. I was inspired by Nitrome's Leap Day, and I thought, what would happen if you had like ability to smack things without even changing the controls? And then I tried, and then my a project that was initially about trying to do pathfinding code from scratch ended up turning into a game about bullet hell and tic-tac-toe because stuff also the code related to pathfinding is also could be used for tic-tac-toe for some reason. That was like the first thing we were told to make because it had something in university. Okay, I don't want to get into too much. Oh yeah. Oh, also you had to basically you're playing tic-tac-toe against God, which was the AI. Then there's like, oh, what about Splatoon and bumper cars? It doesn't have to just be genre or games fusion. It could be, I don't know, a certain toy or whatever that interests you. And this was like a little jam game that I made. I can't show the actual gifs of the in-game stuff because it'll probably make you motion sick. That's what it certainly does to me every time I check it out again years later. And then the second pillar is learning driven. So maybe you want to figure out, maybe you want to focus on a particular skill that you want to grow. It could be trying to do art, maybe it could be trying to learn a new platform, maybe it's, oh, how about if I do something related to mobile? Maybe I want to figure out how monetization, maybe I want to figure out certain mechanics or anything in general. It could be shaders, physics, or maybe just using a third-party tool and seeing the integration with it and seeing what could come from that. Maybe you combine, I don't know, a dialogue. Um, maybe you could use something like Twine to make a whole dialogue for a visual novel type game, and so on. Oh, okay. An example of a project that I did this approach with was a game that will probably never see the light of day, and it was an experiment in when it comes to physics joints, a bunch of distance joints, and I tried to combine. I think each chain was a separate physics object that you connected to each other, and it was pretty interesting. I wish I could go back to it. I was trying to make it into a roguelike, but it was too cumbersome. The project stopped working after a while because I made it in Construct 2 and then I've already moved to Construct 3 and then some couple updates happened and then the project broke basically. Uh, Alright, and then the third pillar that I use is a theme of fantasy. I feel like out of us inside the Not So Solo Discord server, Adam is like very good at this. Well, Adam Pipe or Paper Cookies, however you know him, Adam Pie. I think one good example is his game No Players Online, where it's like you're in a what was it, an old school shooter multiplayer map, but the server's empty, and somehow he's able to wrap that into a horror game, and I found that pretty interesting. Maybe what was it? Um, yeah, not everyone could come up with an idea out of nowhere. Sometimes it's with stuff with this pillar in particular. It's good to do stuff outside of games. If you end up like playing games all the time, you especially find it incredibly hard to figure out fantasy or theme because all you've seen is other people creating that for you rather than you trying like being excited about a certain thing. And I think some with other people sometimes this could inspiration for in terms of theme and fantasy could come from books, movies, I don't know, real life. Maybe like I think I mentioned earlier, which was, what if maybe some crazy idea that they had in the back of your mind that told you, no, I'm not gonna do that. Maybe you were in a car, or someone driving you, and you had the sudden thought, maybe what if I open the car door and jump out? Like I don't know, anything really could inspire a game idea. Maybe it's maybe you could turn in that into a game where you're on the run and your only weapon is your car door, and you just have to smack people while someone else is driving. Maybe you're skateboarding down a mountain again, as I mentioned earlier, on your back under lots of cars and traffic, while being chased by I don't know, a titan. I don't know, yeah, T-Rex maybe or whatever. Yeah, maybe Transformers. So the Optimus Prime is chasing you. Yeah. Oh, some examples in my stuff was Fistful of Nothing, where you had a gun but it was empty, and you had to basically trick your way by just pointing your gun without saying anything, and trying to do it without raising suspicion too early. Then there's other ways of doing it. Maybe you're the object, which happened with gun golf. Like you don't think, how do I play gun golf? How do I play golf with guns, or even if you want to be the golf ball in particular. Maybe usually other people would probably think, okay, what do I use to use a different object to play golf, basically. Like I don't know, cars, like as Rocket League did. Then there's my other game called Right Smack, which was just a spelling bee game, but you're also typing, and that's uh, a theme and fantasy put together in a way, but still inter- had some other interesting aspect to it. Doesn't have to be like strict fantasy or something. Yeah, yeah, golf, gun with no bullets. This is the early version of Fistful of Nothing, which ended up looking like this in the end. And then the last pillar, which was minimal input. I think if there was something that I could compare it to, is basically trying to do a game jam. When you have a theme, you're like usually when your options are all over the place, it's hard to figure out or pick one thing that could be interesting to you that you could use. And I think theme uh, theme is something that's very useful in terms of trying to narrow it down and also read like a lot, make it easier to be creative and to come up with something that you probably wouldn't have. And I think minimal input in particular is one aspect that could help make that happen as well. It also helps it also helps make a game more accessible as well. And yeah, the limitations can breed creativity, as it says in the presentation, in the slide. Oh crap. Okay. So I had BB Blaster, which I haven't put on hold for a while, which is being able to, you could do all the movements by just tapping to turn. I took the control of shooting away, but I made it so wherever you're facing, your forward in front of you is what you aim at. And it was interesting that how well it fit into the like a random theme for the game, the space, mercenaries in space. And I thought, what would be like something uh, funny that could make the game more memorable. Initially, the game didn't even have a theme or anything to it. It was just random shapes, and I remember DMing one of the folks at Nitrom and asking them like, "What's the one way of trying to get featured on the App Store?" And they mentioned animals, even specifically Star Fox, and said there's a likelihood because they do like, animal themes sometimes, you're more likely to get featured with that. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. And then I suddenly started exploding with random ideas, drawing like little character portraits that you see on like here. And one friend also drew a picture of how the dogs are probably controlling the spaceships, and it somehow fit together. Yeah. Okay, and then there's Punch Golf, my first independent mobile release. And yeah, it's not my proudest work, but uh, I it did end up becoming I ended up mixing Infinite Runner, golf, and I don't I don't know. I was just trying. I was in a mood where I was annoyed at the time when I made this. I was not in a good time, and I just prototyped out like something that's stomping down very heavily, and ended up getting like 400 likes on Twitter for something that was like an hour prototype, and then I ended up adding more to it, and somehow it turned into this. Oh yeah, the artwork is by Andre. Got help on that. Very talented. But out of all of that, like all those four pillars that I mentioned, which was there is something that I haven't been telling you. Ideas are freaking worthless if you don't actually produce something. Uh, how many times have you probably gotten like a random stranger from school or whatever, hearing about that you could code or something, and then they message you saying, "Hey, can you make this app idea for me? I'll split it 90-10, 90 for me, 10 for you," or whatever thing, where they don't actually put anything forward, no money, just an idea, and expect you to do something for them out of the blue. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But in terms of when it comes to this approach of trying to come up with games in a short amount of time, um, yeah, okay. Either way, with any game, it's good to make sure to fail fast on certain things in order to see if it works out. Yeah, and as I mentioned before, do things outside of your games or playing games, since you're probably likely to come up with something more interesting that way. You won't it won't like become something that's just iterative. I think for a couple of years ago, you couldn't even walk without seeing someone doing a Zelda-inspired game, which was basically I don't know, Link to the Past or whatever the GBA games were, and not actually doing anything that was that unique. But no one called them the Zelda likes, but I could see them. And just make sure you don't overwork yourself as well, because that also hampers your creativity as well. Yeah, scope down, whatever. Yeah, general knowledge. Yeah. So, any questions? Hello?
Right.
Wow,
Do you have to finish? Do you have to show this presentation to somewhere else?
Nope. I basically took like different presentations that I already made and put them together. Actually, if it...
Yeah, I was curious.
let me see. Uh, actually,
Actually,
uh,
to be honest, I couldn't find the difference
mm,
because I watched the.
yeah,
I
it's
think I
this
watched
is
the original.
yeah, this is how the original looked. I just took a couple
Yeah.
slides from it, and then another couple slides from this presentation that I did a talk for somewhere physically, and also a tech talk thing that I did for Google, uh, which was this. Yeah, yeah, the ideation stuff. Yep, there it is. You'll recognize learning driven. Yeah. There's some other stuff that I didn't put in the other slide, like a custom editor which I made for that game Punch Golf. Theme fantasy, yeah, and then limited inputs stuff. Yeah. Oh, there's a better example here of a couple games. Wait, can I press F5? No, slideshow. Yeah. So I think this one in particular was you play as a delivery driver. It was a jam game. I'm still trying to improve it for like a commercial release at some point. But yeah. So any questions? Just hit me.
nice. Do you what's your experience with coming back to prototypes? Did you have you got more experience throughout the years, and when you go back to a prototype, you are like, okay, I know how to do this, or are you still like depends on the game?
Oh, well, it's interesting you said that, and on this presentation actually, I so when I start building a game, I try to just scope down as much as possible to get like the most get it playable as soon as possible. Sometimes it takes more, I don't know. I try to limit it down to at least 3 days if it's something that's small in scope, and that usually means um, trying to get it playable within a couple hours. Or I mean, well, actually, no, I'm losing my train of thought right now. Basically, what I do is I always have like a couple juice functions that I always start with, and I always have always set up the cameras so I can just quickly zoom and stuff, or go to like a certain reposition it, and squash and stretch. That's usually like my first go-to, and a particle effect. And then I just try to build out the game. And when like early-ish prototypes, I whenever I try to get something working, I just use the uh, basic shapes like squares and triangles, just create
Nice.
gray box out levels. And it's nice with the circle as well because you could just put it at the end of a of a square, and it looks rounded out the edges, or you could just connect them and they look correct-ish.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you can tell from these two screenshots.
yeah,
Square, yeah, or cubes, as you can see in the top one. And yeah, and and then I always like at least when it comes to just trying to get a feel for something, I usually always have like a screen shake function and a zoom function as well. And it's surprising how no one seems to say anything about that. Whenever I post like a GIF of something I'm working on early, there's always screen shake and zooms, especially and slow motion as well. It's pretty.
yeah. The freeze frame, right?
Yeah, yeah. For a long time, I got a little bit too crazy with the slow mo. I think Josh told me to freaking chill out with it. It was making him sick or something a long time ago. I think it was. I don't remember, especially with games that I had like where you shoot like a weapon. I would keep adding like obscene amount of slow mo, like a freeze frame, and then letting it go, and that made it like incredibly frustrating to people who were trying to time their shots, and then suddenly going to slow motion every time. Like especially the more powerful the weapon was, so I got incredibly frustrated. Uh,
Nice.
hmm And like from like making like small games as quickly as possible, I noticed over time that it was starting to get a bit boring actually. Like there wasn't anything that made you like go, oh, okay, let me check this out. I want to see this. I want to, this is relatable. This is whatever, like didn't induce any feeling. And I like, I try to do things outside of it from time to time, and sometimes it could come through things like menus or UI. Like for the menu title for this game, like there's a little subtitle that says "Not our fault, it's the contractors."
Yeah.
Or like I think a baguette game that I'm working on. Uh, there's a chance of there's a customer that does not ask for an order, but you can accidentally give them an order. I made that a baby that just steals it and
Nice.
just runs off with it. And like small little details like that tend to stick with people a little bit more. At least it makes people tend to remember the feelings the game gave them rather than what they actually did. Like you probably played lots of games, but you can't remember exact moments every time, right? So
Yeah.
I thought maybe, so I tried to make sure there's some things that elicit some sort of feeling. be it something small. And I think I noticed it when I was making the dog space shooter game, when I made like the little portraits for the characters, and I made like a little bio for them. So when you selected them, and when I playtested it on a bunch of people, they checked out the characters, and they wouldn't. A lot of people kept mentioning this one dog character that in its bio, it would talk about itself in third person. So I think its name was, I don't know, Beef Juice or something. I don't know what it was. And it was saying, "Love beef juice. Beef juice is amazing. I would give beef juice all of my belongings," or something like that. And people
Oh,
loved that. While all the other dogs were being talked about like they were the heroes or like villains. One There's one character just talking about himself in in third person and saying it should be the best. It should whatever should do things for it.
wow. It was your mic was cutting off, but I think
Oh,
I
whoops.
understood. Nice, nice.
Yeah, and then like after the prototype stage, it's just like in content, which is like a pain. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Great, nice.
Okay, I'm gonna end it now if there's no more last minute questions. Is there any questions? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's it. Thank you guys for coming to Not So Talking, September 2022.
Nice. Great.
All right then, and